What's up, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Soft Cell. And we're into the bonus material for the 2002 album Cruelty Without Beauty. Thank you, as always, to Kim. And I want to go through at least some of the material in here, though maybe some of it will leave for after I go through Happiness Not Included, and eventually Danceteria, which is coming out soon, though Kim was telling me the specific release date is not exactly clear. Nevertheless, I do want to go through a few tunes in here. There's a live performance of Say Hello, Wave Goodbye. There's a bunch of different versions of Monoculture. But something that caught my eye is a remix of Tainted Love. Now, the song's been on my mind for two reasons. One, a few weeks ago, or at least a couple weeks ago, I did a mini song documentary watch-along about Soft Cell's Tainted Love, but as told from the point of view of Gloria Jones. The interview for the mini song documentary is with Gloria Jones, and she talks about when she recorded the original, and she talks about eventually discovering that it had become a big hit over in the UK, and she didn't know that right away, and then talking about Soft Cell's version, and then eventually we see footage of her performing it on stage with Mark Allman. So yeah, that was very cool, and again, thank you to Michaela for providing the mini song documentaries, as well as a Soft Cell documentary that I watched just last Friday, and that not only talks about their history up through, I'm forgetting the year the documentary was shot. It was when they were about to perform a big concert at the O2 Arena. I think it's 2018. And so the whole documentary is interviews with Mark and Dave, including like separately and together. It's amazing. It was really, really informative and just great to see. And it's interesting because in that documentary, Mark talks about how he had been in a car accident that was very nearly fatal, and he had like a hard time recovering from that, and he had to like learn how to sing again. But he mentioned that he had a really bad encounter with Dave, like out on the streets, after they had released Cruelty Without Beauty, and that led to a fissure again between them for several years. And that's not something I remember. Maybe Kim mentioned it, or maybe it had been mentioned in the comments before, but I hadn't recalled that, and so I was surprised to learn that. Nevertheless, the point is, Tainted Love has been on my mind recently because I've done a couple watch-alongs, and for the record, the Gloria Jones Tainted Love song documentary, that is now publicly available. I think the full documentary, which is called Say Hello, Wave Goodbye, I think it was a BBC Music produced documentary, that one's still going to be embargoed for another, I think, 6 or 7 days. Nevertheless, full members can view it now, and it'll be publicly available in a little over a week's time, I think. In any case, one of the tracks that's a bonus tune in this expanded folder for Cruelty Without Beauty is the 2XS remix of Tainted Love. So I'd love to hear a remix of Tainted Love. I did look online, and apparently 2XS, it's a duo. One of them's named Damien, and I'm forgetting the name of the other guy, but I do have the Discogs page open. It's Stuart. And yeah, it's a production team. Damien, Mendes, and Stuart Bradbury. So yeah, I've not heard of 2XS, so I don't quite know what type of remix we're about to hear. Nevertheless, it's such a classic tune, and it is interesting in that documentary. Mark was talking about when it was the only tune that really hit over here in the US in their early phase, and he was saying when they toured the US, they were kind of defiant that they didn't want to be like this pop, like hit space band. They wanted to be more of like an art group, and making songs that were more nuanced and darker and less likely to be radio hits. So Mark's saying when they toured the US at the time, they didn't play Tainted Love at all. And he says in the documentary, he's like, it was a ridiculous mistake. Like, why didn't we do that? And he was even saying, like, Michael Jackson at one point came to see them because he wanted to hear them perform Tainted Love, and they didn't perform it. So, yeah, that was a really interesting insight. In any case, I very much enjoy the Soft Cell version. To be fair, I don't think I had ever heard the Gloria Jones version until recently, and in that song documentary, they obviously play it. It's like, damn, her version's really good too. In any case, let's listen to the 2XS remix. I think this is called Mix. No, it is the remix. So this is the 2XS remix of Soft Cell's Tainted Love. Oh! We've got a jungle remix, with drum and bass. Oh yeah.
Sometimes I feel I've got to run away. I've got to get away from the pain you drive into the heart of me. The love we share seems to go nowhere, and I've lost my light. For I toss and turn, I can't sleep at night. Once I ran to you, now I run for you. This tainted love you've given, I give you all a boy could give you. Take my tears and that's not nearly all. Tainted love, tainted love. Now I know I've got to run away. I've got to get away. You don't really want any more from me to make things right. You need someone to hold you tight, and you think love is to pray. But I'm sorry, I don't pray that way. Once I ran to you, now I run for you. This tainted love you've given, I give you all a boy could give you. Take my tears and that's not nearly all. Tainted love, tainted love.
Oh, that deep bass.
Once I ran to you, now I run for you. This tainted love you've given, I give you all a boy could give you. Take my tears and that's not nearly all. Tainted love, tainted love. Don't touch me, please. I cannot stand the way you tease. I love you though you hurt me so. Now I'm gonna pack my things and go. Tainted love, tainted love, tainted love, tainted love. Touch me, baby, tainted love. Touch me, baby, tainted love. Tainted love, tainted
I love it. Now, I come from the 90s, so to speak, in terms of my appreciation for drum and bass and jungle, and this, I think, is essentially in the jungle style of drum and bass, and sort of like the jump up jungle. But yeah, definitely this reminds me of going to drum and bass / jungle parties back in the 90s, which again, if this was produced in 2002 or thereabouts, then that makes perfect sense. And yeah, again, it's got all the fun stylings. I will say drum and bass more than any other style of music makes me feel like pop locking, which again is part of the culture that I remember from those parties back in the day, where, you know, sometimes it'd be like a full-on like circle where people would go out and kind of battle as they would pop lock and do various types of breakdancing, and other times it was just like, you know, a big drop would happen and the whole room would be going crazy, and, you know, it wasn't so much like competitive, it was just like, you know, the room was going off, as we would say. Nevertheless, I do enjoy it. It doesn't try to do anything too crazy, but I like how it turns a like synth pop dance tune into a drum and bass dance tune. Like, all the major elements are still there, though Mark's vocals are sped up, I think, like not only in terms of like the tempo of the individual lines, but they're condensed. They come more on top of each other, not like by a crazy amount. It still feels like the rhythm of the original soft cell version, but again, I think it's slightly accelerated in both respects. But yeah, ultimately it's drum and bass. It's obviously, you know, that two-step rhythm, which essentially is like a breakbeat rhythm but double time, and then there's some like more rave sounding articulations of the melodies of the original track in this version. There was also a section in the back half, as I mentioned, where you could hear that really deep, almost like, dub level bass. It was like this really kind of full and deep bass, but it, like, to the active ear, it's not as easy to hear because it's like this, like sub bass almost. But yeah, fun, danceable, definitely a cool version. I guess if you're not really into like, drum and bass or jungle music, maybe that's not to your taste, but I very much enjoyed that. And yeah, I never had too many drum and bass records. I think I only have a few left because I sold some of them years back, meaning it was never a genre that I mixed like as a DJ, but as someone who was into the genre and someone who did collect records. I had a few, like some DJ Crust records and so on, but I never had a huge collection. But back in the day, if I had had this, I definitely would have, played it on my turntables. So yes, as I said, there's at least a couple other tunes in these bonus tracks on the Cruelty Without Beauty, or in the Cruelty Without Beauty expanded folder. Thank you again to Kim, that we'll go through. At some point, I'll jump ahead to Happiness Not Included, and yeah, we'll just keep going through Soft Cell. So let me know what you think, and Luca and I will see you next time. Peace.